It's a cold, silent night, and something feels off. The streets of Chicago, usually buzzing with life, are eerily deserted. The dim glow from a few scattered streetlights flickers, like a heartbeat in the distance. The city feels empty, as though something is missing, like an invisible force is pulling everyone away. The usual hum of cars, people, and life is completely absent. John, a tired taxi driver, sits alone in his car, parked on the side of the road. His fingers rest on the steering wheel as he flicks through the radio stations, desperate for anything, to break the unsettling silence. But the static and empty airwaves only make it worse. Frustration fills him as he sighs and glances at his phone. No bookings for the past hour. His phone has him buzzed, his thoughts wandering, and the only company is the darkness outside. John checks his watch. It's close to midnight. The city feels strangely empty, like something is missing. He leans back in his seat, eyes scanning the desolate streets. He shivers slightly, feeling the cold air seep through the window cracks. The eerie silence around him is starting to get to him, making him feel more and more restless. His fingers tap nervously on the steering wheel. The hum of the engine is the only sound he can hear, but it feels like even that sound is too loud in the stillness of the night. Suddenly, in the distance, John hears the faint sound of footsteps. He squints through the rearview mirror, straining his eyes to make out the source of the noise. The steps grow louder, the rhythmic sound of shoes on the pavement echoing through the empty streets. His breath catches in his throat. There's no one else around. No other cars, no pedestrians. The sound of the footsteps is growing louder and closer. It's almost as if the person is coming directly towards him. John shifts nervously in his seat, gripping the steering wheel tighter. His heart begins to race. He looks around the dark streets, but there's still no sign of anyone. Just when he thinks he might be imagining things, he catches a glimpse of a shadowy figure moving toward his car. The man is dressed in a long black coat, the collar turned up against the cold, his face hidden beneath the shadow of his hat. He walks with a slow, deliberate pace, almost as though he's moving in a trance. John can't see his face, but something about the way the man moves sends a chill down his spine. The streetlight flickers in the distance, casting long shadows that stretch across the street, adding to the eerie atmosphere. As the man reaches the car, he doesn't say a word. The door swings open silently, and the figure slips into the back seat. The air in the car grows colder, and a strange sense of unease fills the space. John's breath catches in his throat as he feels a shiver run down his spine. For a moment, he hesitates, unsure of what to do. The man doesn't speak or even move. The silence is thick, almost suffocating. Downtown, the man says, his voice low and raspy, like it hasn't been used in years. John quickly nods, his hands shaking slightly as he starts the car. He doesn't know why, but he feels a sense of urgency in the man's voice, a feeling that something is terribly wrong. The night is too still, too quiet. John glances nervously at the rearview mirror, but the man's face remains hidden beneath the brim of his hat. The silence between them is almost unbearable, each second stretching longer than the last. Trying to ease the tension, John asks, "Sir, where are you coming from?" His voice sounds strange to his own ears, as if it doesn't quite match the situation. There's no answer. The man remains still, his body rigid, his eyes focused on the road ahead. John's heart beats faster. The silence stretches, and it feels like the man isn't even breathing. John looks at the rearview mirror again. The man's stillness is unnerving. His coat is old, frayed at the edges, and the way he's sitting, it's as if he's not moving at all. The car's headlights cast a faint glow on the man's silhouette, and the dim light only adds to the sense of foreboding. John's hands begin to sweat, and he turns the radio up slightly, hoping the music will help break the silence. But even that doesn't work. The radio plays static for a few moments before the song fades away, leaving nothing but the eerie hum of the car. The streets grow quieter as they near downtown. Even the usual nighttime traffic has disappeared, leaving only empty, darkened roads behind them. John clears his throat, his nerves getting the best of him. "Where should I drop you off?" he asks again, his voice now a little more desperate. The man doesn't respond. John glances at the rearview mirror and his heart skips a beat. The back seat is empty. He slams on the brakes. The car jerks to a sudden halt. His mind races. He looks around the car frantically, his breath quickening. He turns to the back seat. Nothing. No sign of the man who had been sitting there just a moment ago. John's hands shake as he grips the steering wheel, trying to make sense of what just happened. His mind spins, and he struggles to remember exactly what he saw. There's no sign of anyone. The man has vanished. How could he have disappeared so quickly? There's nowhere for him to have gone. The streets are empty, and the car is parked in the middle of an open road. He gets out of the car, his heart pounding in his chest. He looks around, hoping to see the man walking away, but there's no sign of him. The streets are as empty as they were before. No one in sight. John checks the back seat again. It's still empty, but then something catches his eye. On the back seat, lying on the seat, is an old photo frame. It wasn't there before. His breath catches in his throat as he reaches for it with trembling hands. The frame is dusty, the glass smudged, and inside is a black and white photo of a man, the same man who had just been sitting in his back seat. Beneath the photo, an inscription reads, "Died in a car accident December 31st, 10 years ago." John's blood runs cold. He looks at the date on his phone, December 31st. It's exactly 10 years to the day. His hands start to shake more violently. How is this possible? The man, was he a ghost? Was he really the same man in the photo? John's mind races with questions, but he knows there's no easy answer. He quickly tosses the photo frame onto the passenger seat, his heart hammering in his chest. John puts the car in gear and speeds away from downtown. His mind is spinning, but he can't focus on anything except the chilling realization that he's just encountered something that defies explanation, something that isn't of this world. As he drives, the city starts to blur past him, but the feeling that he's being watched doesn't go away. His eyes dart to the rearview mirror. Nothing. He breathes a sigh of relief. But then, out of the corner of his eye, he catches a glimpse of something. Just a shadow, perhaps, but it's there. He turns to look at the passenger seat, and the photo frame is gone. The radio crackles to life, its sudden sound jarring. A voice, deep and raspy, comes through the static. It's the same voice as the man who had been sitting in the back seat. "Thanks for the ride." John's blood turns to ice. His foot slams on the brake, and the car screeches to a halt. His heart races as he looks around, frantically scanning the empty streets. There's no one there. The back seat is empty. But that voice, it was real. It came from the car. Shaking, John pulls himself together. He knows he needs to get home. He starts the car again, the tension still hanging in the air. His hands grip the wheel tightly, his knuckles white. As he drives away, he can't shake the feeling that he's being followed. The camera zooms in on the empty backseat, where the faint imprint of a man's presence lingers. The city is nothing but a blur now, the fog growing thicker around him. John drives through the night, but in the distance, in the rearview mirror, he can see something that shouldn't be there. It's a shadow, a presence, a lingering figure. But no matter how hard he tries to see, there's no one in the back seat. And as John disappears into the foggy night, the echo of the man's last words lingers in the air, a chilling reminder of the encounter he'll never forget. "Thanks for the ride,"